thank you for a community in which we can join together in. Thank you for a land in which that has been stewarded by indigenous Chumash, Tonga, Ohlone peoples here in California. But God, thank you for being one that continues to hear grievances. Because today I have to proclaim I am hurt and I am mad. I'm angry. Why does the world have to continue to rip away things that give hope? Why does the world continue to move us in ways that are regressive, that are not good for the humans? God, why are things happening that make us ask, where are you, God? God, we come to you and I have to be honest. And God, I'm sorry if this offends you, but my hope wavers, and I just lose hope when I see that these exploitive, oppressive, capitalistic systems move faster and quicker than the hope in you and your people do. God, I am here today knowing that I can be refreshed by you, knowing that I can lean on you, I can lean on your people, but God, my hope is wavering. God, I ask for every person impacted by affirmative action, may you affirm them. For every person that is feeling the weight of student debt, may you release those burdens. For every person that wonders if they can go to a job and be served because of their sexuality, gender, disability, political view, religious perspective, God, may you know that they have a way and may you provide a way. God, I'm angry. I want to burn the things down that get in the way of the flourishing of your people. It hurts when hope is ripped from people in the small little ways that we have hope in this world. Lord, I know, and I see the history, I know you see the history, that before affirmative action, before civil rights, it was genocide and eugenics. And God, we know that there's no hope in that. God, we know you care for your people. God, we want to see the God of justice, the God of mercy. And we know there's no pro quo. We can't ask for Dylan Roof for Sandra Bland, but God, we want to see something, you know. God, just the things continue to break us in this world, and lessons to be learned, people to be organized, movements to be joined. But God, sometimes it feels like it's slipping away. And I thank you for a community that can breathe life and hope and joy and love into each of us as we express and experience these moments. These moments happen far too often. But God, thank you for this community, because that's what community does. They keep us together. God, thank you for breathing life in us and showing that there is hope in breath. Amen.
Morning, everyone. Julia here with your community reading from Luke 16. You guys are invited to unmute and participate. Alrighty. There was once a rich man who had a household manager. This man was accused to him of wasting his property. And he called him over and said to him, "What's this I hear about you? Hand over the records of your management job. You can't manage my property anymore."
The manager
Manager
said to
said to
himself,
himself,
what am I going to do?
My
My
boss
boss
My
has
boss
taken
has
the
taken the
management job
management
away
job
from me.
away from me.
I'm
I'm
not
not
I'm not
strong
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 enough
enough
to
enough
to
to
do,
do.
and I'm
I'm
embarrassed to
embarrassed to
beg.
beg. I
Uh, I know what I'll do so that when I'm removed from management, people will welcome me into their homes. And he sent for each one of the people that owed his boss things. He said to the first one, how much do you owe my boss?
And he said,
800 gallons of oil.
and
He
he said
said
to
to
him,
him,
here's
here's
your
your bill.
bill.
Quick,
Sit down and write
and write 400.
Then he said to another person, and you, how much do you owe? And he said, 30 tons of wheat. And he said to him, here's your bill. Sit down and write 24.
And the boss
And the boss
complimented
complimented his
dishonest
dishonest manager for acting wisely,
because
because those who belong to this world are wiser toward their own kind
those who belong
than
to the
those who
light.
belong to the light.
I'm
I'm
telling
telling
you,
you,
make
make friends for yourselves
using
using unjust wealth.
well.
That way, when it disappears, people will welcome you into the eternal dwelling places. The person who's faithful in relation to something really small is faithful in relation to big things too.
So
If you haven't been
Being
faithful
faithful in relation to unjust wealth,
who's going to
who's going to
trust
trust you with the real thing? And if
And if
you
you
haven't
have
been
been
faithful with somebody else's resources, who's going to give you your own?
All right, and now for announcements. Cleveland, and I'll be sending links in the chat shortly.
Yeah, I'll put it up on my phone.
I think
Hello, everyone. Today is July 2nd, Sunday, and I want to welcome you. Today's theme is Wealth for When Wealth Disappears. I would also like to invite you to attend on Wednesday. We're going to have a Zoom service at 7 p.m. I want to give a big congrats to Beverly Moore. You know, last week she retired as a high school teacher with the California Department of Corrections. That's really big. We appreciate that. Anytime you are working as a high school teacher and dealing with youth, that is much of just a gift of patience and grace. And from this picture, she obviously embodies that. Thank you so much. You know, Julia's gonna put some links for you to pay your tithe and offering. You know what I mean? Thank you for doing what you're supposed to do. God appreciates that. And he's gonna bless you for it. I promise you, he is. In-person church will be next Sunday on July 9th at 10 a.m. And there will be a meeting at Tucker's Grove at 11:15. Tania will give details about the outing. And so, you know, we have a quote for today. Pastor sent me a quote, but one of the quotes that I want to say is Matthew 11:12, that the kingdom suffereth violence and the violence will take it by force. I'm not really happy about the ruling that we got concerning education. It's very upsetting for a lot of us as people that look like me. You know, we're afraid. We want to be sure that we can get in school and we can get our education. And I'm actually very, very pissed about it, you know. And we got the 4th of July coming up and we're supposed to celebrate for this country. And this is how we are treated. But, you know, we're going to keep the faith and we're going to take what's ours. You know, we're not just going to lay down, at least not me, for my legacy and for my family. I'm gonna make sure that my kids can, get the education that they deserve. The other quote for the day is that the opposition to those who work for social change does not come only from those who are the guarantors of the status quo. Again and again, it has been demonstrated that the lines are held by those who hold on securely. Security is sure only as long as the status quo remains intact. The reasons for this are not far to seek. If a man is convinced that he is safe only as long as he uses his power to give others a sense of insecurity, then the measure of that security is in his hands. If security or insecurity at the mercy of a single individual or group and control of behavior becomes routine, all imperialism functions in this way. Subject people are under control by his device, and that's by Howard Thurman. As I said again, we're gonna keep hope. It really was hurting for a lot of us about this education ruling, but we're gonna keep hope, and I'm gonna pass it on to Tania.
Well, Tanya was here. But not now. I don't know if she's having a connection difficulty. She was last week, so I don't know if that's happening now. So before we close today, we will revisit this, and it's possible that she will get on. It's good to see all of you. I know some folks are moving about, traveling here and there, celebrating for some, it's a 4-day weekend. But let's, we have another piece of music here. And as we listen to this, towards the end, I'm going to ask you, and if you want to, you can unmute. You don't have to, but towards the end of this song, I am going to recite the Our Father, or the Lord's Prayer as it's known, and you're welcome to join in. But first, let's listen to this message in song.
Just going to sleep.
is in despair. There's war and violence everywhere. Restoring us a new mind. When hatred seems to come and creating us a new and pure heart, and let your kingdom come. angels are here again. Oh, restoring us a new mind. When hatred seems to come, we know it's gonna come. Restoring us a pure heart. And let your kingdom come. Oh, restoring us a new mind. When hatred seems to come. Oh, and creating us a pure heart. And let your kingdom come. Let your kingdom come. And let your kingdom come. Oh, let your kingdom come. God, let your kingdom come. Oh, let your kingdom come. We need it here, we need it here. Oh, let your kingdom come. Oh, let your kingdom come. Oh, let your kingdom come. Thine is the glory and the power. Oh, let your kingdom come. All the glory, all the honor. Oh, let your kingdom to heal the land. Oh, let your kingdom come. Oh, let your kingdom come. We need it here. We need it here. Hey, hey, we need it here. We need it here. We need it here. Only you can heal us, Lord. Oh, let your kingdom come.
Our Father, who art in heaven,
Restoring us a pure
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom
Your
come,
kingdom come,
when
your will
will be
be done
done on earth
on earth
as
as
it
it
is
is
in
in heaven.
heaven. Give us this
This is
day
day
our daily
our daily
bread,
bread.
and forgive us
Give
our
us
trespasses, as we forgive
we forgive
those who
those who
trespass
trespass
against
against
us.
us.
Lead us
Lead
not
us not into
into
temptation,
temptation, but deliver
but
us from
deliver us
evil.
from the evil one.
For thine is
For
the
thine is the
kingdom,
kingdom,
the power,
power,
and the
and
glory
glory
forever.
forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Maybe he was a chief operating officer, a COO, but more probably he was an administrative assistant of some type. A man was terminated from his job, not due to any proven misconduct, but based on mere allegations. And we'll come back to that in a moment. But first, let's look at how real his struggle was, beginning with the termination. He had no alternative source of income. He urgently needed money to sustain himself, but he had no passive income streams like stocks, bonds, rental income, or digital products like app development. And it's evident that this man did not come from a financially privileged background. He had no affluent parents to rely on. Passive income could have helped him in this situation, but morally, passive income is a double-edged sword. It can be used as a force for good, but as we at some point have all heard, we can often handle adversity better than we can handle prosperity. Jesus calls it unjust wealth, or in some older Bibles, unrighteous mammon. Jesus wants us to always hold in view that this thing that we all want has the power to corrupt us. When we don't have it, we think about getting it. And when we have it, we worry about losing it, or maybe think about getting more. Wealth can disappear, but wealth is more likely to make us disappear. For what does it profit a person to gain the whole world and lose their soul? Wealth and the desire for wealth has the power to redefine us, to change us. Money has so much power that Jesus says it's next to impossible, not impossible, but next to impossible for a rich person to experience God's dream, or what is called the kingdom of God. The takeaway is that if I happen to be well off and I am experiencing God's dream, it took a miracle. It means I convinced a camel to go through the eye of a needle. But we don't really think we've been corrupted, whether we've sold out a little bit or completely sold out. Especially those who can lay off and fire people with little or no concern for them or their families. The boss in this story did not likely see himself as corrupt. He was just doing what his suspicions told him he needed to do. Where is the morality in prioritizing your own protection without considering how it may impact others? Accumulating unjust wealth cultivates an environment of distrust. Last Sunday, Lisa Robinson referred to greed as a matter of mental illness. One way to not be spiritually and emotionally embattled as a rich person is to just shut down your conscience. Those who know what it is to have once been poor find themselves navigating this treacherous past. We see this struggle played out in the hip-hop world, where typically, but not always, but typically the biggest stars have risen from poverty. Few rappers revisit this concept as often as Chance the Rapper. In his song titled Blessings, listen to his words. They booked the nicest hotels on the 59th floor with the big wide windows with the suicide doors. Ain't no blood on my money. Ain't no Twitter in heaven. I know them drugs ain't close. Ain't no visit in heaven. I know the difference in blessings and worldly possessions, like my ex-girl getting pregnant and her becoming my everything. I'm at war with my wrongs. I'm writing 4 different songs. So let me affirm those of you who are well off. It's not supposed to be easy to have an exponentially more amount of wealth than your neighbors. It's supposed to take effort. This is your opportunity for personal growth. This is true for you no matter what your privilege is, the privilege of whiteness, the privilege of maleness, the privilege of ability, the privilege of being tall, the privilege of being physically attractive, the privilege of body shape, the privilege of your gender aligning with your appearance. Becoming more comfortable with yourself can happen by not getting too comfortable with your privilege. Now, today, I'm not trying to be a bother. I just long for a world where we look out for each other, including family members, but not only. So I know you hear me say things like this again and again, but I feel it in my bones. And I think God put it in my bones. I would not be true to myself if I were silent. After the end of a day, a full day, sometimes I want to read fiction. At other times, nonfiction. Fiction can help me escape. Nonfiction can keep me from escaping. Consider two genres. One, documentary films that capture and preserve actual events for educational or historical purposes. And two, romantic dramas. As a church, we can focus on portraying reality or indulging in romanticized fiction. We can choose to center our worship around a fictional, love-filled tale of Jesus seeking an emotionally gratifying conclusion. By choosing to be a romantic church, we work at ignoring the challenges and issues present in the world around us instead of documenting them. But you might say, I come to church to find comfort. Point taken. But who's going to tell you when you're idolizing comfort, especially when that comfort comes through worship? Let me say this. Slaveholders went to church for comfort. When Jews were being exterminated, people went to church for comfort. When LGBTQ people were dying of AIDS, people went to church for comfort. While asylum seekers sit in detention centers right now, people come to church for comfort. And most of us want uplifting music and poetic prayers and preaching that reassures us that everything's going to be all right. Comfort is real, but comfort occupies a specific space and time in our lives. If you see the Bible as something of a romance novel setting you up to get lost in lovely songs that set the stage for romantic preaching so that we can go live romantic lives, that's a fantasy. And I don't mind comforting people. True comfort is here and available. The one place, though, where true comfort cannot be found is in a cloud of illusion. True comfort is here, and may the Spirit breathe comfort on each person here who needs it right now. I speak comfort to you, Cleveland, to Matt, to anybody who needs some comfort. But I recognize my topics are sometimes exhausting. But deep within, we all share longings with children in every part of the world. We long for a world where we recognize that there is plenty enough for everyone and that we take better care of one another. We long for a world where Chelsea Lusner Buxton does not have to be the one who asks real estate companies to refrain from putting their signs on the sidewalk, where she doesn't have to be the one who speaks up for persons with disabilities. We long for a country where we don't need the provisions of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, not just because the powerful have decided we don't need it. Last week, I watched the documentary Loudmouth, which covers the story of Reverend Al Sharpton. I long for a society where we no longer need loudmouths. I long for a society where we don't need DEI officers, where pride parades are not political statements, and where we don't need organizations like GLAAD and the Trevor Project or Black Lives Matter. I dream of a society where everyone has the option of a roof over their head. Is that too too much to ask? I dream of a society where individuals don't have to anxiously wait for their insurance company's approval to save their life. And I wish the people who fight for fairness every day could go home and rest. No, it's not fair, and your work doesn't pay. Makes me think of the choir singing when I was a little boy the words of Job. The wicked shall cease from troubling, and the weary will be at rest. Went like this: the wicked shall cease from troubling, and the weary will be at rest. And all of the saints and the angels shall sit at his feet and be blessed. Oh, all of the saints and the angels shall sit at God's feet and be blessed. Your struggles are not fair, but you do have a life. So back to this jobless man who was forced to find employment with no viable options. It was too late to create a professional profile on platforms like LinkedIn or enroll with job search websites like Indeed.com. Nor did he have the kind of network that would move him seamlessly into a new career. This jobless man apparently reasoned, telling himself, it's a cold world out here, and if I'm going to be accused of being a cheat, I might as well be a cheat. So on his last day, before he left the office, he quickly logged in one last time and cooked the books to ensure that the business partners would be his allies. In time, the man's ex-employer who had terminated his employment came to admire his resourcefulness, his astuteness, his cunning. The boss still got paid, just not as much as he would have gotten had he not dismissed his employee. Before you get any ideas, no, Jesus did not condone cheating. And in fact, he goes on to say, if you're honest in small things, you'll be honest in big things. If you're a crook in small things, you'll be a crook in small things. If you're in big things, if you're not honest on small jobs, who will put you in charge of the store? No worker can serve two bosses. He'll either hate the first and love the second, or adore the first and despise the second. You can't serve both God and the bank. No, Jesus didn't condone cheating, but he did want his audience to pay attention to their cash flow, that we do not become so heavenly minded that we do ourselves no earthly good. The rapper Flo Rida said, mind on my money, money on my mind, trying to stack paper, counting every little dime, down to the penny. Holler if you hear me. I do it for the streets. Yeah, I do it for my city. So folks, it's good that you pay attention to your money. Whether you have plenty or not enough, keep paying attention. This is God's will. And if you haven't been attentive to your funds, start now, because since this is God's will, God will help you. God will guide you. God will give you both the wisdom and the energy that you need. Yes, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, but that does not mean we should hate money. In this story, Jesus tells his followers to use money to make friends. You heard that right? If you have access to money, use it to make friends. Listen, one reason people are so lonely is that they don't have money. But another reason people are lonely is that they have money and they're stingy with it. They are either suspicious over the reasons that some people don't have money, or they are suspicious that everyone's trying to get their hands on their money. Like Lisa, I think greed is a mental health problem. Let's call it what it is. It's madness. And our society is living in the ambiance of suspicion, and it is madness. So now, as we prepare to open the floor and have communion, let me say, that I am again asking myself about my relationship with money, and also reminding myself that my greatest asset is me. Let's pray. We turn our hearts to the Creator and her creation. Our hearts cry out for reality and not illusion. We want the real thing. Jesus, you told us if we haven't been faithful in relation to unjust wealth, who is going to trust us with the real thing? And we want the real thing. You are the source of all that is real. God, we want the real thing, and that includes knowing how to think about money, our resources, our possessions. So we pray for your will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. We also pray that you would forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. We are comforted by the awareness that money is attracted more than it is pursued. And so as we live our lives in a way that pleases you, we can open our hearts to having our needs met. One of the ways that you comfort us, one of the ways that you lead us beside the still waters and green pastures is with the spirit of promise. And one of those promises is give and it shall be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into our lap. For with the measure we use, it will be measured to us. And so we are comforted in knowing that there are people looking out for us. We all have somebody noticing us, and we are grateful. We are sustained by our Creator and her creation. And so we take comfort in these things, and we take comfort in this one other thing. In this cold world, we will sing the song of promise, and we will also sing the song of gratitude. Because there's something about gratitude that changes us and then opens opportunities for our conditions to change. So we pause in this moment to say, thank you. Thank you, Creator. Thank you, giver of every good and perfect gift. We thank you right now. Come on, everybody, say it out loud. Thank you. Thank you. Say it again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. And now Lisa's going to come on and help us process things.
I am grateful for this subject because it is always a part of the conversation. There was, I started thinking when you first talked about, somebody who has a lot and somebody who has a little, and how, a quote that I love from Pastor Nadia, and I don't remember her last name, but dominant powers are not ultimate powers. And if you notice, a lot of people, money comes and money goes. It's almost like a roller coaster. It comes in waves, and sometimes you're up and you have excess, and sometimes you have not enough or just enough. And so that made me think of that. When you have a great amount, what do you do with that? Do you store it away for yourself? Which I understand there's a little bit of that makes sense, but Dolly said it best, when money is like manure, it's not worth a darn unless it's spread around, encouraging young things to grow. So there's my musical theater coming in. And it's true. It's like when you have excess, I feel like it's the best thing to do is to pour it in to those around you that you can support and help and encourage. And that's why the student loan thing I was really disappointed, because that's exactly what it is. These people have worked really hard, have studied really hard, and you're giving them, hey, you know what? You worked really hard and you should have this because you worked really hard for this. And there's nothing wrong with that. And for somebody to misrepresent that and twist it into a way that is not accurate is just so offensive, because of their own greed, not because of the other people that need it, that truly need it. And so I was thinking about that. I love the idea of what you pointed out. We worry about not having it, then we worry about losing it, and then we worry about not having enough. And that's exactly the process that I feel that we go through. And so our interaction with money is really a hate-love relationship. And for us to remember that it is not something to love, but something to use. It is a tool. It is not the focus of your joy. So that really impacted me. But I want to know what everybody else thinks about that. How have you seen yourself worrying about it when you don't have enough, and worrying about it when you have it, and worrying about it when you don't feel like, even though you have it, you don't have enough? So does anybody want to speak into that? And that's okay. You don't. And I don't see hand raises. So I'm gonna, how about this?
Caroline's up.
Oh, sorry, Caroline, I missed you. I was looking. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's speaking directly to the point you made, but I was just thinking while I was listening to Matt talk and Cleveland talk and then Pastor David talk and I was just thinking how we have so much in this country. We have enough for absolutely everybody in this country to have the education they need, the healthcare they need, the homes they need, the food they need. And it is like I sort of identified with what Matt was saying, like he wasn't directly talking about it, but just like the sort of crushing anger I feel like right now. Just, we have enough for everybody in this country to be more than taken care of. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not really going anywhere with this. It's just the anger, like we have enough, and yet somehow there's this hoarding of wealth that, it's not news to anyone, but I don't know. I guess that's just where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a hoarding of resources. It's a hoarding of resources that could help those around you. Who is my neighbor? That's a great question. How about the person that you could help?
But I love what you say that greed is a mental illness, because I look at my favorite target, Jeff Bezos, and his basically $1 billion worth of yachts that he's sailing around the Mediterranean on right now. And like how much wealth and opportunity has he hoovered up from small business owners, Main Street, mom and pop people in this country to build that. And it's just.
Hi, Lisa.
Yeah. Oh, is that Ernie?
It is.
Hi, Ernie.
Hi.
You're looking
I
awfully
do.
pink today, Ernie.
I have to stay pink. But I agree with everything that has just been said, because with what Matt said and our message from Pastor David, it is so hard to not see it all together. And your comment also, Lisa and Caroline, I sometimes wonder about capitalism in general. I sometimes say I'm in the belly of the beast, of course. We hear that phrase, but it's hard. I always talk to my friends about, I have a very close relationship with money, and it started because of having very little. And then building a relationship to going in that direction of having more and making more stretch out. Never a lot, but more. And that more came with blessings. And I never got to get those blessings without a lot of help, without a lot of sharing, and without a lot of that coming all back. And in my relationship with money, I don't ever like to forget the fact that I see people with so much money with such big, huge problems. And those problems stretch out in many, many different ways. As in the sermon, that it can change us terribly, or I can now say things like, I can make donations that I couldn't have done before. I can do involvements that I couldn't have done before. And I always want to share joy because people have shared pain with me. The joy shared was twice as good. The pain shared was half as bad. But I do want to always grow in understanding those very basic principles of what it can do that's positive and what it cannot, or what it may not do if you're not paying attention. That's why I call it a relationship.
I love that quote. The joy shared was twice as good. The pain shared was half as bad. I think, thank you. I'm writing that one down. I love the way you put that. Let's see. Still hard for me to see if anybody else has their hand raised, but I don't see anyone. What else I thought was interesting was, you know, doing what his suspicions told him to do. And I always bring this in, and it's still true. The whole thing is the source is fear. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. Oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough. Fear, I think, hinders us from experiencing love in our lives. If you're not afraid to lose it, if you're not afraid to not have it, it gives you a freedom that, yeah, that can be described. David, did you want to say something, add something to this?
Yeah, my comment is just that I have always taken such inspiration from the Sermon on the Mount. I feel like Jesus kind of said it all when he said, you know, consider the lilies of the valley and so forth, that if we have faith and live good lives, God will provide for us. So to me, it comes down to faith. Of course, I think everybody else had really beautiful, cogent remarks, especially the remark about money being like manure. It's a tool. That's what it's for. And I like to think that what we give will come back to us, especially if we give thoughtfully, give in ways that will make the world a better place. So that's it. Sermon on the Mount, faith.
Like productive giving.
That's my approach to. Yes, exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Generative giving.
Yeah. I like the thought you brought out was interesting. Do we idolize comfort? And I think that can be a dangerous thing is, oh, we want to be in this certain spot in this certain way. And it's like, well, the road to that should be the thing that's important. It's like the road to Hana, you know, it's not getting to Hana because there's not so much once you get there, but it's the road there. The road to Hana is on a Hawaiian island, and it's this windy road, and there's lots to see along the way. But once you get to Hana, it's a very small, maybe not such a, I don't know, I haven't been there and to see whether it's grown since that saying was coined, but it was the journey. And so idolizing comfort is like, oh, this is what I don't have in this spot is really unfair to you because you're not enjoying the moment that you have, kind of.
Well, maybe we're or I'll just sitting in this moment. And thank you, Lisa, and everyone. I know that Kenichi will have some closing remarks, and we'll also hear from Tanya about next Sunday. But Kenichi, take us there.
Hi, everyone. Before we take the Lord's Supper, I've been reading the passage from the Greek text, and one of the things that one will be able to pick up are the tenses, the verb tenses, and I thought it was very interesting. 1 verse 3, the steward or the manager asks himself, and I know that in many English translations, it says, "What shall I do?" It's more futuristic. It can also be taken as what should I do? It's more like a rhetorical question that he's asking himself, meaning what is the right thing to do? And the reason for this is the verb form, without going into technicalities, it can be either future or there's a tense, there is a tense called subjunctive, which is a tense of possibility. And simply put, subjunctive, which in English we don't really think about it at all, although there are English forms of that. So it can go, what shall I do, as in future, or what should I do? What is the right thing for me to do? And then in verse 4, this is another interesting thing, because it's written, it states, I know, and I think it should be, I know what I should do, as opposed to, I know what I shall do. So I think especially in verse 4, I think the translation, for me, that's just my suggestion, is I know what I should do. I know what I think ought to be done. Now, one other thing, the verb I know I realize in the English Bible, it's translated in the present tense. But in the Greek text, it's what we call the aorist tense. Aorist, typically, if it's in the normal verb statement, it's in the past tense. So if I were to translate it in a very Greekish way, it would be, I knew what I should do. But then in English, doesn't really make sense to the flow of the text, because in verse 3, he's saying, what shall I do or what should I do? Then he goes, I know. So the present tense is a better fit for English translation. But why is it in the aorist tense in the Greek? Well, I know that there is one usage of aorist tense that indicates truth or fact that transcends the current moment. In other words, a universal truth, for instance, or a fact that is long-standing. Another place where such usage occurs is in John that I'm aware of, where he says, any branch that doesn't bear fruit, God prunes and it's burnt, thrown and it's burnt. That is in the aorist tense. Like it's almost like God did it in the past. But if you translate it in English, it's the nuance gets off course. So I wanted to suggest, I'm not saying this is it, but I just want to suggest perhaps when the manager asks himself, what shall I do or what should I do? And he goes, I know what I should do. It was already in him, so to speak, what the right thing he should do should be, it's in him all along. So thus the rhetoric question to himself, what should I do? Oh, I know what I should do. And so Pastor David, I think in another way to look at this, because I've been really thinking about this for quite some time, is that perhaps this manager was being extremely subversive, meaning that he's managing the master's finances and resources, but because of the unjustly. So it's an irony that he is looked at as the unjust manager, whereas really the unjust, matter at hand is the accumulation of wealth for the powerful. You see it? So it's turning its on its head.
Let me say, Kenichi, the fact that when you open any number of Bible translations and it'll have a heading that says things like the unjust or the unrighteous, that's all arbitrary. It derives from a person's bias. And there are other Bibles that call him the shrewd manager.
Yes.
And that's probably more in line with what you're saying, that he was carrying the injustice of the whole enterprise and found a way to subvert it. Yeah, I can see that.
So from that sense, I suggest that when he asks himself, gosh, what should I do? I know what I'm going to do. And so he just, so then when Jesus was saying the person who is unjust and little is also turning that on its head and saying, this guy was always operating this way. Maybe he was making side deals and say, you know what? Yeah, that master, I know he's got so much and, here, I'll cut a small deal. But then he really put that on steroids when he said, you know what? I'm going to be out of a job.
So basically, he became a revolutionary.
So anyway, just my suggestion. So I just wanted to share that with all of you.
You gave us food for thought there. And now let's have food for the soul together in community.
Okay. So in line with everything, holding resources loosely and not letting the accumulation thereof, and then the resulting, allowing ourselves to be subjected to mental disorder of hoarding. There is this. I was recollecting. There's a song. He gave his all. What more could he have given? Something like that. He gave his own life. The Christ gave everything. What more could he have given? He has nothing left. He gave everything. And so as we partake of the broken body of the Christ, and to partake of his blood that he shed. Let us be reminded to partner with the Christ, to be channel, the conduit of giving, each one through us, resources, finances, our very lives will be given to one another to make better and to strengthen the human race. So let's partake. Broken body of Christ. And then Christ shed blood. Amen.
Thank you, Kenichi. Everybody, let's be shrewd and not unjust. And Tanya, give us some directions before we sign off today.
Good morning. So we do have our picnic, our potluck next week. So we will be after church going over to Tucker's Grove. We have the group site number 4, which is really straight back from the parking lot. I think most everybody who's been to one of these before has been to that site. So it's the same one, kind of near a bathroom, which is really nice. So we're just doing potluck, making it simple. And if your last name begins with A through L, let's have you bring a main dish. And if you are the rest of the alphabet, then go ahead and bring a side dish of some kind. Remember that we do have some that are vegetarians, so don't feel like you have to put meat into the main dish. It could be a vegetarian main dish. That's totally fine. Also, if you're, as you'll probably be going to church, as we'll be meeting in person there as well, there is no refrigerator that we have access to there, so you're going to need to put things into a cooler with ice. I can bring a cooler with ice. I will bring a cooler with ice in case people have a need for that. If you have a crock pot or if you need to keep something warm, you could keep it, we could plug it in and make our whole church service smell delightful, which would be wonderful. And so, and those of you that are traveling from a ways, you know, certainly you could pick something up right there near the park. Don't feel like you have to take it all the way from home. And of course, anybody who doesn't have time or whatever, just come, because there's always plenty of potluck. So, you know, don't feel like you have to bring something, but it's fun to share kind of some of our favorites. So anyway, we're all looking forward to that. David's going to have music, and it's just going to be a time of fellowship. And if, you know, we do have tables there, but if you want to sit on the grass, we can, you know, when you want to have a back to a chair, or even there's a concrete area right next to the tables, you could bring a chair, a folding chair. So anyway, if you have questions, you can always, you know, send I think I put my email on, or my phone number onto the email that David's going to send out. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Tanya. All right, that's if you want to stick around.